Hey guys, GamerZach here with a video about We Happy Few. Now, if you've managed to not see We Happy Few in any form, well, it's this really awesome looking dystopian British sort of surveillance state where everyone is hopped up on joy pills to keep themselves happy. And it recently went into early access, and this is a game that I'm really looking forward to. And it going into early access seems like kind of a weird move because they were sort of portraying it as this very structured sort of, well, based on the trailer anyway, it looked like very structured, very story-based, something like BioShock. But they also said that it was a roguelite survival open world game, and that didn't quite seem to gel. So I decided to get into early access because it's not that expensive. And the big question is, should you actually buy into We Happy Few's early access? And that really depends what you're looking for and what you expect out of the game. And this can be a little bit confusing based on the materials that they've released so far. So I'm gonna show you the game and see what's there. And we're gonna talk about it a bit to see if you really want to get into it. So first things first, this is a PC channel, so let's look at the options menu. And I do have to say that the options menu is superb, and it's actually getting better. There was recently a patch and it added more options in the options menu. But there's a pretty comprehensive set of graphics options, FOV slider, rebindable keys, separate audio sliders, and all that good stuff for PC. And just a little thing that I do like is that options menus with a lot of options in them, for example the resolution, tend to have this left and right button, which We Happy Few does have, but if you click in the middle, it gives you a drop-down menu. So thank you for adding a drop-down menu to the options where there's lots of choices. Starting up the game, I was of course brought into that sequence that we saw in the trailer and the choice of taking the joy pill and censoring all of the newspapers. And I spent quite a good bit of time sort of going around and just, well, messing about with the environment and looking around at all the clues. And that starting area, the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game, is actually incredibly detailed. There's so much stuff to read. There's so many clues and, reading what's in the news and what you're censoring or approving and things like that. And seeing all the little details in the environment does actually feel fantastic. Well, environmental storytelling along with some actual storytelling. Though once you get past that initial starting sequence, the world becomes a bit more bare bones, or rather a lot more bare bones compared to that sequence. So I'm hoping that the game does develop to the point where at least the main storyline of the game is as detailed in its environment and storytelling as this initial sequence. So it's promising, but it's not there yet. Alright, now beyond that, let's talk about the actual gameplay of We Happy Few. Now if you're looking for or expecting a comprehensive story or structured gameplay, well, you're gonna enjoy the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game in its current state. But beyond that, it's gonna be a lot more open world. And I do put up a message at the start of the game when you launch it now, which says that it's not complete and the story's not really in there and all of that. But one thing they have already nailed is the atmosphere. It feels great. Just looking around, seeing what's there. I mean, it could do with more refinement and details, of course, but the atmosphere, the base look and feel of the game is already there. And it really does feel like a survival game. I mean, it does have health, food, water, sleep requirements. You go around foraging for food and resources. There's crafting of medical supplies and weapons and all of that. And you can contract the plague, which I stupidly did. And crafting is simple enough. You get ingredients and you have your list of recipes and you click on something to craft it if you have the base ingredients. So at the moment, it's nothing too complicated on crafting. And I don't really feel like it needs to get much more complicated. And then we can talk about combat, and combat, it feels okay. I took down a few people and stabbed a few people with a sharpened stick. But the big limit on combat is your stamina bar, where even jumping takes out quite a bit of it, because you play this character which is, well, doesn't look to be in the most fit of states. But having the choice of weapons and crafting new weapons or just punching people, it does actually feel quite good. It feels quite impactful when you hit people. Though this is primarily kind of a hide-in-plain-sight stealth game, so combat is sort of your last resort. And once you engage in combat, everyone from all over the place runs over to start killing you, so it's probably not the best idea to run into someone and just start stabbing them. But generally they are still working on the mechanics primarily, and there's some refinement to be had there. But from what I feel for the mechanics as a base game, I think the mechanics are pretty much in place, but they're still working on glitches and bugs and stuff like that. And overall the game does feel a little eerie, it feels a little creepy, but it's by no means a horror game. You're much more likely to get stressed out rather than scared. So for those of you who are wondering how scary the game gets, well, it might get quite scary later on, but for the most part, it's more eerie. Now, let's talk about some negatives here. Now, I did spend a lot of time wandering around directionless. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. There was no real indication as where you're supposed to go. And I'm all for open world games, but We Happy Few, well, they did say that the story was not incorporated into the game yet, and that is something that definitely needs to be in the game. But as the game stands right now in early access, it's quite sandboxy, it's quite open worldy, and there isn't much direction. So if you're looking for a very directed experience, We Happy Few is not quite there yet. And then I did see quite a few graphical and mechanical glitches still in the game. I mean, there were some floating signs and some models that really shouldn't be where they were. And also there was like loss of interaction in certain things where I should be able to pick this thing up, but I couldn't pick this thing up, or I picked it up once and put it down and couldn't pick it up again. And so there's a few interaction options and a few mechanical glitches there. And I do have to mention the loading screen. So in early access, games generally aren't that optimized, but I do have to mention the loading screens are quite long. I mean, it's not like minutes on end, but it can take a good 30 seconds to a minute to load something up. And also I found when you're going from area of the game to a new area, a loading screen will suddenly pop up, and it can take another 30 seconds to a minute before something actually gets through there. And just talking about stability, well, I did die in the game, and I turned on permadeath, so I had to start a new game. And when I tried to start a new game, the game did crash. So stability-wise, it is still a work in progress. And if you get into early access for We Happy Few now, you can expect crashes. So let's answer the big question. Should you buy We Happy Few in early access? Well, if you're one of the people out there which got hyped for We Happy Few just from the trailer or the official footage that they showed off recently, well, you probably aren't going to enjoy the game in its current state, and I recommend waiting for full release. The game has massive potential, but it's clearly still incomplete. And if you're buying into the early access, well, treat it like you are backing a Kickstarter. It's still a big risk, the game is not done, and right now you can't get what the game is promising. Though a day after coming out on early access, there was already a patch which added new options and bug fixes and a lot of things there. So that hotfix came pretty quick, and if they can keep up that pace of development and make the game look significantly better every month, then that would build a lot of confidence in the game. So basically, if you are unsure about buying into We Happy Few in early access, look up the game in a month or two from now and see if it's any different. If it looks like there has been significant progress from what you're seeing right now on the screen, and you see things that will allow you to regularly enjoy playing the game in early access, then you might be able to get into it and have a good time. But if you really like the story and the environment and all that stuff that is coming in the final version of We Happy Few, and you're not really into the whole sandboxy thing and just wandering around and messing about with the mechanics, well then I definitely recommend waiting for full release. And full release of We Happy Few has so much potential. It could be an amazing game. But the fact is, it's really not quite there just yet. Alright, and beyond that, it's gonna be your preferences and your judgment. So let me know what you think about We Happy Few. Have any of you actually bought into early access? What do you think of it? And for those of you who haven't bought into early access, why not? What are you waiting for? Alright, that's it from me about should you buy We Happy Few in early access. My name's been GamerZach. Hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.